stop for just a moment. I know life's moving fast, maybe too fast, but take a breath and pause with me, because what I'm about to share with you, it might just shift the way you see everything. Not just your life, but your past, your pain, your purpose. You've felt it, haven't you? That quiet, restless tug inside, like something's missing. Not in a dramatic way, more like a faint ache beneath the surface. Even when everything seems okay on the outside, something in you whispers, this can't be all there is. And you're right, that feeling, it's not your imagination. It's a memory of something your soul has always known, but the world taught you to forget. A hidden truth buried long ago. There was a time, centuries ago, when certain truths were known, not by everyone, but by a few. Ancient mystics, tucked away in hidden orders, spoke quietly of a sacred map, a guide that revealed what happens before you are born, and what your soul chooses to carry into this life. But that map, it disappeared, not by accident. It was buried, erased from the public eye, because it gave people something dangerous. Power, the kind of power that makes you unshakable, that frees you from fear, guilt, and the illusion of helplessness. And now, it's resurfacing. The map of the soul. You see, long before your first breath, your soul began a journey, not just one of flesh and bone, but one of sacred intention. There's an ancient manuscript, whispered about but rarely named, that describes 7 sacred stages every soul moves through before it chooses to incarnate. 7 thresholds, each one shaping who you are, what you feel, why you struggle, and what you're truly here to learn. This isn't a philosophy, it's not a theory or trend. It's the deep, cosmic truth of your being, and once you start to remember it, everything shifts. Suddenly, your life isn't random, your pain isn't punishment, your choices weren't mistakes. Everything was part of the plan. Stage 1. The call. Have you ever felt pulled? Not by something obvious. I'm talking about those moments when you feel this strange ache, like your heart remembers something your mind can't explain. It might come when you're alone at night, or staring out the window, watching the sky shift colors, or maybe in the eyes of a stranger that feel oddly familiar. That feeling, that pull, is the echo of the first stage, the call of universal consciousness. According to the sacred texts, everything begins when the great source, the heartbeat of the entire cosmos, sends out a call, not a command, not a demand, just an invitation, like a note played across the stars, a soft vibration that only your soul can hear. And when you do hear it, you remember. You remember that it's time to grow again, to learn, to love, to return to this earthly stage and play your next role. And here's the wildest part. You chose to answer it. You didn't have to. You were free. But something deep inside said yes. You chose to come back, to be here, in this body, in this moment, even knowing it wouldn't be easy, even knowing you'd forget, even knowing that pain, heartbreak, fear, all of it would be part of the path. And still, you chose this. You said yes to being human again, to being vulnerable, to falling in love, to losing, to remembering, slowly, who you truly are. And even now, that call, it's still echoing. You can hear it in a child's laughter, in the hush of early morning, in the ache that won't go away, not because something's wrong, but because something deep inside is trying to wake up. You feel it when you're searching for meaning, when you know there's more to life than just surviving, when you're done pretending you're fine, when you're not. The call is alive in you. That longing, it's not weakness, it's your soul reaching for the truth you once knew. And the moment you say yes again, everything begins to shift. Stage 2. The life review. There's something we all carry, whether we talk about it or not. Regret. Sometimes it's sharp, a choice we wish we hadn't made. Other times it's soft, a word we never said, a path we didn't take, a love we let slip away. You've felt it, haven't you? That quiet replay of moments, the if-onlys that whisper just beneath the surface. If only I'd said something sooner. If only I hadn't walked away. If only I could do it differently. And yet, what if I told you that your soul has already seen it all? Every moment, every choice, every consequence, not just in this life, but in lives before this one. And even more surprising, there was no judgment. A mirror made of light. Before you were born, before you stepped into this body, your soul paused. It stood before a great mirror, not the kind made of glass, but one made of pure light, reflection without shame, memory without pain. In this space, the soul doesn't relive the past to suffer. It relives it to understand. This is the life review. And in that moment, you felt it all. Not just what you felt, but what others felt because of you. If you hurt someone, you felt their pain. If you showed kindness, you felt the warmth it left in their heart. If you inspired someone, you felt their light expand because of it, but not in a punishing way. Not like someone wagging a finger at you from above. No. It's not like that at all. It's more like a deep breath of truth, a full-body experience of everything you've created. The good, the hard, the beautiful, the messy, because the soul doesn't grow through shame. It grows through awareness. You were meant to see it all. In that moment, you didn't feel guilt. You felt compassion. You didn't feel condemnation. You felt clarity. That's what the life review is. A moment of sacred clarity. You understood the ripple effect of your choices. You saw how your actions shaped not just the lives of others, but the unfolding of your own story. And maybe, just maybe, you chose to come back this time to heal something left undone. Maybe a wound you caused in a past life became the lesson you're learning now. Maybe that ache in your chest isn't yours alone. It's an echo of someone else's story you're meant to rewrite with love. What if you could do it now? Imagine this. What if you didn't have to wait until the end of this life to do your review? What if you paused now, just for a moment, and looked at the path behind you with the same kind of clarity? No judgment, no guilt, just truth. Ask yourself, what am I proud of? What patterns keep repeating? What would I change? Not out of shame, but out of love for the person I'm becoming. You don't need to wait for the next life to become more conscious. You can shift it now. That's the real gift of remembering. It gives you the power to rewrite the present. Forgiveness isn't for them, it's for you. The soul doesn't keep score, it seeks balance. So if you've been holding on to guilt or replaying old memories like scars that won't heal, take a breath. That weight you're carrying, you were never meant to drag it this far. Forgiveness isn't about excusing the past. It's about releasing yourself from the prison of it. Because the truth is, you've already reviewed it. Your soul already knows. And now you're here, not to suffer for your past, but to grow through it, to evolve, to try again. So, if something inside you stirred while hearing this, if it touched a part of you that's still carrying silent regret or heavy memories, just know this. You're not broken. You're remembering. And that is the beginning of freedom. Stage 3. The Council of Souls. You've felt alone before, haven't you? Those moments where life asks you to make big choices, and no matter how many people surround you, the decision feels like yours to carry. Alone, that ache. It's heavy, but here's the part we're never told. The truth that lives behind the veil. You've never been alone. Not really. Long before you entered this life, even before your soul chose its purpose, you met with a group of ancient beings, not just spirits, not just guides, but soul companions, mentors, helpers. They are known as the Council of Souls. and they've been with you since the very beginning. A room made of light. After the life review, your soul entered a space unlike anything this world can offer. Not a place with walls or ceilings, but a plane of stillness, of warmth, of light that feels like love you've always longed for. There, waiting for you, were those who know your soul better than anyone else. Beings who've watched your journey across lifetimes, who've cried with you, grown with you, cheered for you when you forgot how to cheer for yourself. They welcomed you, they listened, and together you made a plan. No one chose for you. That's important to remember. This wasn't forced on you. This life you're living now, it wasn't handed down like a sentence. It was created with you, with care, with consciousness, with intention. You spoke with your counsel about the themes you still longed to explore, the wounds that still needed healing, the strengths you hoped to develop, the truths you wanted to embody. This time, for real. You chose the souls you'd meet along the way, not just your loved ones, but your teachers, and yes, even your challengers, the ones who would break you open so you could remember how to rebuild with truth. Allies in disguise, some of the people you've struggled with the most in this life. They may have been the ones who loved you enough to play the hard role. It's a wild idea, I know, but imagine this. What if that heartbreak, that betrayal, that impossible conflict was part of the script? Not to punish you, but to wake something up in you, to trigger strength, to shatter illusions, to push you toward your deepest healing. Pain doesn't always come from cruelty. Sometimes it comes from spiritual courage, yours and theirs. They're still with you. And here's what most people never realize. The counsel, they didn't just stay behind. They're still here, still watching, still whispering guidance when you pause long enough to hear it. That gut feeling, that dream that felt more real than waking life, that moment of clarity that showed up out of nowhere. That's them. They speak through synchronicities, through quiet knowing, through the tiny nudges that don't always make sense to your mind, but feel true in your bones. You can reconnect anytime. You don't need a ritual. You don't need a guru. You don't need to be perfected. All you need is stillness, willingness, and a little courage. Close your eyes. Ask for clarity. Ask for presence. Ask to feel the ones who've walked beside you all this time. They'll answer. Maybe not in the way you expect, but in the way you need. Because your counsel has never left. And they're still invested in your journey, every messy, sacred, courageous step of it. So the next time you feel lost, or unsure, or unbearably alone, remember this. You are surrounded by wisdom. You are guided by love. You are never walking this path on your own. Stage 4. The choice of life. Purpose. Have you ever had that nagging feeling, like you were born for something more? It doesn't always shout. Sometimes it's just a whisper, a quiet longing beneath the noise of everyday life. You go through the motions, follow the rules, meet expectations, and yet something inside you still aches, still asks, why am I here? That feeling, that strange emptiness, isn't a flaw. It's not a sign you're lost. It's a memory, a quiet flicker of something your soul already knows, but your mind forgot the moment you were born. You chose a mission. According to the ancient wisdom, no soul comes into this world by accident. Before your first breath, long before you opened your eyes for the first time, your soul made a choice, a sacred one. You chose your purpose, not a job, not a title, not something you'd one day achieve and be done with. No, it was deeper than that. You chose the core experience you wanted to live through, the transformation you wanted to embody, the the message you wanted to carry through your actions, your healing, your being. Maybe your purpose was to break old cycles, or to rebuild trust where it had been shattered in past lives. Maybe you came to soften a hardened heart, or to awaken courage in a lineage where fear had ruled for generations. Whatever it was, you chose it in total clarity, not with fear, not under pressure, but from a place of complete spiritual vision. And here's the most important part. You would never choose a purpose your soul wasn't ready for. You already hold everything you need to fulfill it. It's just buried under layers of forgetting. Purpose isn't found, it's remembered. We live in a world obsessed with finding purpose, as if it's something hiding in the corner of a career path or printed on a business card. But your true purpose, it's not external, it's internal. It's already woven into who you are, into what lights you up and what breaks you open. Ask yourself, what makes my heart race? Not from fear, but from passion. What injustice or pain in the world do I feel called to heal or change? What would I give my time to, even if no one ever praised me for it? The answers to those questions, they aren't random. They're the echoes of your soul, trying to remind you of the promise you made before this life began. Your pain is a clue. It might sound strange, but the things that have hurt you the most, they may hold the key to your purpose, because the soul doesn't just grow through peace. It grows through pressure, through contrast, through fire. The same experiences that nearly broke you, the ones that made you feel small, defeated, forgotten. They may be exactly what you came here to transform in yourself and in others. Your purpose often grows from the cracks in your story, from the parts you've tried to hide or silence, from the wounds you're learning to turn into wisdom. There is no wrong path. You haven't missed it. If you've made mistakes, if you've taken detours, if you've been numb, distracted, or asleep for years, none of that changes the truth. Your purpose is still there, waiting patiently, carved into your soul like a sacred imprint. And every step you've taken, even the messy ones, have all been leading you closer to it. That thing you came here to do. It's not gone. It's simply waiting for you to remember. So if you've been feeling restless, disconnected, like life is happening to you instead of through you, pause, breathe, and listen. Because underneath the noise, your soul already knows why you came. And it's ready, whenever you are, to begin again. Stage 5. The choice of body and family. This one, it's hard for a lot of people to hear, because it asks us to look at parts of our life we didn't choose consciously, or at least not from the part of us we can remember. The body you're in right now, the family you were born into, the place, the culture, the timeline, none of it was random. And I know, if your childhood was filled with pain, or your body feels like something you've had to battle rather than embrace, this truth might feel impossible. But stay with me. What if, before you were born, you saw it all? What if your soul chose this exact setup, not because it was easy, but because it held everything you needed to grow? The soul sees differently. You see, the human mind looks at pain and asks, why would anyone choose this? But the soul sees the full arc of your evolution. It doesn't judge life by comfort or ease. It doesn't measure success in status or applause. It asks one question: will this help me expand? And from that higher place, the soul sometimes chooses hardship. Not to suffer, but to awaken. Not to punish, but to heal what hasn't yet been healed. The family you chose. You didn't just land in your family. You selected them carefully, consciously, not for their perfection, but for their patterns. Maybe there were karmic ties to resolve. Maybe there were cycles of pain to break, ones that had echoed through generations. Maybe you chose a parent who couldn't give you what you needed, because it would force you to become the one who could give it to yourself. And I know that doesn't make it easier, but it does make it meaningful, because when you start to see your past not as an accident, but as a design, that's when true healing begins. Your body was no mistake. The same goes for your body. Every curve, every limitation, every strength, every vulnerability. You saw all the options, different bodies, different genetics, different physical templates, and from a place of deep knowing, your soul said, that one. That's the one I need. Maybe you chose a body that would teach you resilience, or a nervous system that would help you understand anxiety, so you could one day help others through theirs. Maybe you even chose a visible difference, so that you'd be forced to find your worth beyond what others could see. It's hard to accept, I know, especially if your body has been a source of pain. But what if it's not the punishment you thought it was? What if it's the doorway? Nothing was wasted. Even the hardest parts of your origin story, the trauma, the rejection, the abandonment, were not placed there to break you. They were placed there because your soul knew what it could build from them. You chose your roots not to stay stuck in them, but to grow beyond them, to alchemize them, to become something new, something freer than what came before you. That's why you're here. You are not the product of your environment. You are the evolution of it. And when you start honoring your soul's choices instead of resenting them, that's when everything starts to unlock. The ones who hurt you may have loved you the most. Here's the most radical part of all. The people who hurt you the most in this life, on the soul level, they may have been the ones who loved you enough to play the hard roles, the antagonist, the abandoner, the mirror, because souls don't cling to comfort. They commit to growth, and sometimes the only way to awaken is to be shattered first. But you're still here. You're rising, you're remembering, and that alone proves your power. Stage 6, the veil of forgetfulness. There's a moment just before you're born. It's quiet, sacred, still. Your soul stands at the edge of everything it knows, all its memories, its lifetimes, its plans, and it prepares to take the most courageous step of all, to forget. That's the only way this life could be real. Why we forget. You see, if you remembered everything, the blueprint, the purpose, the pain before it even came, the game wouldn't work. Growth wouldn't mean anything if you already knew all the answers. So the soul, with full awareness, steps into something called the veil. It's not a punishment. It's not a curse. It's a sacred agreement. Because when you forget, you get to choose again. You get to feel your way forward, not because you're certain, but because you trust. You get to experience love, heartbreak, courage, and faith, as if for the first time. That's the beauty of forgetting. It makes every discovery real. The game wouldn't work without it. Think about it. If you were born remembering every soul contract, every reason, every lesson, would you really learn? Would you really grow? Or would you just go through the motions, knowing exactly how it ends? The veil is what gives the journey its depth, its surprise, its meaning. Yes, it brings pain, confusion, longing, but it also opens the door to true transformation. Because when you find your light in the dark, when you choose love without proof or purpose without a map, you awaken a power no soul can fake. You remember who you are without being told. It's not perfect. And that's the gift. The veil was never meant to be flawless. In fact, it's thin in certain places. That's why sometimes, in dreams, you visit places you've never seen, but they feel like home. That's why you meet someone and feel like you've known them forever, like you're just picking up where you left off. That's why, in moments of stillness or heartbreak, something in you stirs, like a voice you can't quite hear, but still feel echoing inside your chest. That's your soul, trying to reach through, trying to remind you. Homesick for a place you can't name, Have you ever felt that strange ache, the longing for something you can't describe? You're not crazy, you're not lost. That's homesickness, not for a house or a city, but for a realm your soul remembers, a place where everything made sense, where love didn't have to be earned, where you didn't doubt your worth. And though the veil hides it from your eyes, your soul never stopped feeling it. That ache, that searching, it's the beginning of your remembering. You can tear the veil from the inside. Here's what they don't tell you. You don't have to wait until death to remember. You can start now, every time you sit in silence and listen. Every time you follow your intuition, even when it makes no sense. Every time you meditate, create, surrender, or dream. You're making tiny tears in the veil. And through those tears, light pours in. The truth of who you are, the reason you came, starts to reveal itself. You remember that you are not just this body. Not just this name, not just this moment. You are eternal, and you chose to be here. You haven't lost who you are, just the way back. The veil didn't erase your truth. It only covered it, and now, piece by piece, you're finding your way home. Not back to where you were, but forward to who you're becoming. A soul that remembers, even while walking through the forgetfulness. A human who dares to wake up. Stage 7, the leap of faith. This is the moment everything came together. All the preparation, the remembering, the choosing, and then one breathless decision. To leap. To leave the safety of eternity, to cross the veil, to forget what you knew and become human, fragile, soft-skinned, wide-eyed. This is birth, but not just physical birth. This is the soul's greatest act of courage, a choice made in love. It's easy to think of birth as something that happens to you, but the truth is, you chose it. You chose to enter this world not knowing what would happen next. You said yes to pain, to joy, to mystery. Not because you were forced, but because your soul was ready. You trusted yourself that much, and if you take nothing else from this journey, take this. You are here because you are brave, not because you were broken, not because you were lost, but because you had something to offer, something only you could bring into this world. The first breath, that first cry you let out as a baby. It was more than lungs learning to breathe. It was your soul saying, I'm here, I made it. You entered a world of contrast, warm and cold, comfort and chaos. You felt hunger, noise, touch, separation, but deep within you, something ancient remained. A spark, a whisper, the tiniest flicker of remembrance. Children still remember. That's why children see what adults forget. They speak to invisible friends. They describe other worlds. They laugh for no reason and cry with full-bodied truth. Because the veil hasn't thickened yet. Because they still remember what we once knew. And even as life teaches us to forget, to doubt, to hide, to conform, that spark never truly goes out. In certain moments, it flares back to life. Maybe you've felt it. Moments that wake us up. You're walking alone, and the wind moves through the trees in just the right way. And suddenly, you feel like you've been here before. Or you hear a piece of music and it hits something so deep inside you, it brings tears to your eyes, and you don't know why. Or you meet someone, and without a single word exchanged, something in you remembers them. These aren't coincidences. They're echoes. They're pieces of you, waking up. You were never meant to stay asleep. You took the leap. You dove headfirst into forgetting. But the forgetting was never the end. It was the beginning. The beginning of a story you are now remembering, piece by piece, breath by breath. You agreed to walk blindfolded so you could learn to see again. You agreed to fall so you could rise stronger. You agreed to hurt, not to suffer, but to grow in ways you never could from the sidelines. That is what birth really is. Not just a beginning, but a sacred return to everything you already are. You're right where you're meant to be. Take a breath, really, right now. Just one deep, conscious breath. Feel that. That's the courage it took to be here. That's the life pulsing through you. Because you said yes when you could have stayed behind. You agreed to play the most daring game of all. To live, to forget, to struggle, to love anyway. You are not weak for feeling lost. You are not broken for wanting more. You are a soul who leapt, and that is something to honor. Now that you remember, now that you know what came before, now that you remember the stages, the choices, the whispers behind the veil, there's no going back. You can't unknow this. You can't unfeel it. And somewhere deep inside, you know, you were never as lost as you thought. So the question isn't whether your soul had a purpose. It's this. What will you do now that you remember? Why we were never told. It's the question that echoes the moment you begin to wake up. Why didn't anyone tell me this? Why weren't we taught about the soul's journey, about our purpose, about our power, the truth? Because a soul that remembers cannot be controlled. The forgotten power from the beginning of history, those in power, whether in religion, politics, or systems of control, have known something most people don't, that a human being who knows they are eternal, who remembers they are the creator of their own reality, who realizes that love is stronger than fear, can't be manipulated. They won't obey out of fear. They won't accept lives that make them small. They won't swallow lies about being unworthy, sinful, or broken. They'll rise, they'll question, they'll create something better. And for those who rely on fear to stay in control, that's dangerous. So, the truth was buried, not gently, not accidentally. It was hidden, erased, burned, banned, mocked, twisted into something unrecognizable. Ancient teachings, like the sacred manuscript you're now remembering, were scattered, silenced, or turned into myths. And yet, they never disappeared, because truth has a funny way of surviving. It hides in the cracks, in forgotten scrolls, in quiet intuitions, in dreams you can't explain, but feel deep in your bones. And now, it's waking back up. The restlessness inside you, that feeling you've carried, that nagging sense there's more to life than this. It's not a flaw. It's your soul pushing through the noise. It's the ancient part of you refusing to stay asleep. You've felt it, haven't you? In the quiet moments when the world goes still and something inside whispers there's more. That's not anxiety, that's awakening. And no system can stop it. No doctrine can shut it down. No amount of forgetting can erase what's already written in your soul. The choice that's now yours, now that you know this, you stand at a crossroads. You can go back to sleep. Pretend you never heard this. Let the veil settle over your eyes again. Or you can move forward, fully awake. Start asking different questions. Start choosing differently. Start remembering who you were before the world told you who to be. Because awakening isn't a moment. It's a decision. It's something you choose again and again, every time you show up in your truth, even when it's inconvenient. How do you start remembering? You don't need to wait for a perfect day, or a spiritual retreat, or a lightning bolt from the sky. You begin now. And it starts in the quiet, when you sit with yourself, just you, your breath, and that soft inner voice. When you ask questions without needing immediate answers. When you stop chasing fixes and start listening to the ache behind the ache. And the more you lean in, the more you trust that something deeper is guiding you. The thinner the veil becomes, piece by piece, you remember. Signs that you're already waking up. You're drawn to messages like this. You question things that once felt certain. You feel more connected to silence than to noise. You care more about alignment than approval. You're not afraid to let go of what no longer fits. These are not signs of losing yourself. They're signs of finding your way back. The final truth: you are not here by mistake. You didn't stumble into this moment. You didn't hear these words by chance. You've been preparing for this, maybe for lifetimes. And now, a part of you is saying, I remember, I'm ready. So take a breath. Stand in your own truth, not the story you were told, not the mask you've worn, but the soul behind it all. Because once you remember who you really are, you don't need permission to be free. Your awakening has already begun. This isn't the end of your story. It's the return to it. You don't have to be perfect. You don't have to have it all figured out. You just have to stay awake. Keep choosing love over fear. Keep asking what's true for you. And every time you do, the veil thins and the light gets brighter. Because you, my friend, are remembering.